welcome to Don't Feed the Geeks, presented by the Long Island Comic Guys, the masters of the geeky verse. We have a small crew here today. It's just TC and JJ.
Hey, what's up?
All all the rest are unavailable today. So JJ is going to step in for Toy Story on the Geek Beat. So, Mr. JJ,
This
take it away.
this is some big shoes I got to fill, right? I'll do
I
my
don't know about that. I
I'll
think I think he's like a size 8.
I'll do my best. So what we got starting off with, we've got Tom Welling is making a reappearance as the Smallville.
Jim, you cut out again.
Whoa, I'm here. I'm hearing myself, man. I think it's on your end. So we're gonna continue this. So we're gonna say Tom Welling, who was the Clark Kent from Smallville, has confirmed to appear in the CW crossover event, Crisis on Infinite Earth. That was announced this morning. I guess he made a decision last night that he was going to do it. I think most of us are pretty excited about that. Right there, TC?
Yeah, I'm trying to get to hearing you here.
Oh.
All right, let's try this again. Yes, I am pretty excited about that. I was a big fan of Smallville, and I'm glad to hear. I know we heard this rumor a while ago that he was going to be joining, right?
Yeah.
So it's good to see that he's officially done it. I think the only one who hasn't confirmed now that would possibly join would be Linda Carter as Wonder Woman, right?
Oh, but that would be great. I think that would set this over the edge.
I think that'll be probably the last one. I'm pretty confident we're going to wind up hearing about that one, but that'll probably be the last piece of beat they're going to throw towards us before it launches. It doesn't launch until December, so we still have some time.
We've got a lot of time.
I actually just finished up Arrow, which again it was okay. Wasn't anything that like kind of knocked your socks off. I did hear that for season 2. I mean, so I think he kind of like. The spoiler alert for anyone who doesn't see it, he kind of goes off with this a monitor person.
Okay. All right.
So we'll see what happens. I know that his sister, I think Willa Holland is her name. She's returning for season 2. And what I'm hearing is this is only going to be a half a season for Arrow. So the news that's coming out is to kind of bite the bullet at the end of this crisis. So I don't know.
And then
we'll see.
And then that's officially done, right? So Arrow would be
that's
done.
what I'm hearing. That's going to be over. He's actually already starting work on a new show. I didn't add it here, but I think I posted it earlier in the week. He's doing like some type of wrestling show called Heels, where him and his brother own like this like small town like wrestling circuit, and he's like the villain, the heel character, and his brother is like the hero character on the show. And I guess the brother character just got casted, so. I guess he's already on to his next thing. I don't know what network that's going to be on. I think I might have posted it, but I don't recall. I think it could be the CW or maybe another network. I'm not 100% on that.
Okay. I guess we'll be on the lookout for that one.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on. It was announced a couple weeks ago, but it got released as I think it was as of yesterday. Lego released the Ultimate Collector's Edition series of the Imperial Star Destroyer. This week it's out now. It's out in the stores. You can get it if you by walking in the stores. They did an early release if you were a VIP, but this thing is out. It's huge. It's about 4,700 pieces. It's about 43 inches long. Now I have the original version of this. I think it's 181 is the series number. Came out in 2002. It's pretty much the same model. About the same size, but they added more detail to this newer one. It's about $700. It looks beautiful. I'm actually going to skip out on this. I have every single Ultimate Collector's Lego that's out there, but I'm actually going to skip this one because I have the original still in the box.
Yeah, it's hard to justify that amount of money for the same piece that you already have.
Yeah, I can't pull the trigger on it. I wish they came out with something different, but it is what it is.
Those are pretty incredible prices for Lego figures. I mean, I understand they're like collector's series, but still throwing like a $7 price tag on that's pretty hefty.
It's tough, and with this price point, I mean, you're only going to get the hardcore fans of of these type of
and how many people at this point, I'm sure if there's anyone like you out there collecting, I'm sure a lot of other people still have the other one as well.
Oh yeah.
Maybe some of the newer collectors, like Toy Story, who I think was flirting with the idea of getting it. I don't think he's actually going to do it. He's kind of probably the target audience here for that,
Yeah.
target market.
Yeah, because the one I have, it goes for a pretty penny on eBay. I mean, we're talking over $1,000 for it. I think I saw it was 1,500 at the lowest I saw. So yeah, it's crazy. All right.
Cool. I didn't hear any of that.
So I'm picking up everything here. Test 1. Hello, test. How's that? Is that better?
Yeah.
Huh. I'm wondering if I picked up any of this. Test. Yeah, I'm picking stuff up. Well, this is gonna be an interesting.
I'm not even using my headphones anymore, so it's not even coming through like the Skype.
So, all right. So we're gonna continue.
Yeah. All right.
We'll
the inner workings of Don't Feed the Geeks. Yeah,
it's a little different when we just have 2 people here. So next, very exciting news. Nintendo tomorrow is they're dropping the remake of the Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. That's coming out on the Switch. That comes out tomorrow, which would be September 20th. Obviously, the show will be dropped after that. But this is very exciting. I'm a big fan of the whole Zelda series. Yeah, this drops tomorrow. I think I'm the one. I think I'm the only one in the group that's going to be online tomorrow to get this at the Nintendo store.
I mean, I'm still trying to work through the original Zelda, so I don't know if I told you, but I have that little Nintendo that has like 25 games on it.
Yeah.
And I got to I finished everything else but the last boss, and then apparently I didn't save it before I did that. I thought I saved it, but it didn't overwrite the last one. So like the last 3 castles or whatever didn't get saved, and I was like, well, I don't feel like going through all that again yet. So it's probably gonna be a couple more months before I actually go back and ever finish, because I never finished the original one from a kid.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. What's interesting about this one is Zelda's not even in this one. So you're playing Link the entire game, and Zelda's not even in it.
Oh yeah, because Zelda's just like the character that you're supposed to save, right?
It's the princess. Zelda's the princess. Yeah. So
yeah, because the second game was called Link, right?
Link, yes, it was a scrolling type of game, which I loved. So that one is based on this newer one that's coming out. But it's not.
Gotcha.
It's not part of it is scrolling, but most of it is that 3/4 view, top view. But there is some scrolling parts in this. So it's going to be pretty cool. And there's apparently lots of Easter eggs. Mario, Luigi make appearance. Some Goombas make appearance. So it's going to be pretty cool.
We should do a couple of live streams of that for YouTube.
Yeah, we might do that. We'll see how that works.
Yeah.
So next bit of news, GameStop. GameStop is
kind of tied into that a little bit, right?
Yeah, right. So it was announced this week that GameStop is apparently closing up to 200 stores, underperforming stores around the world. So I'm a big GameStop fan. I like to go in there. I know they.
I'm not gonna lie. I kind of saw the writing on the wall with this. With so many people now playing like all these how many kids really even play like actual games? Like most of it on a tablet or a device, like downloadable games, and like even on the big systems, a lot of these games can be downloaded. It's making like the storefront kind of almost obsolete.
It is, yeah. And the other part of this, I know they've got a big, most of their GameStop's bread and butter is the reselling of used games. And, I brought games to sell to them, and they give you pennies to what the actual game is worth, and then they sell it for a ton of money. So I would never do that again. I'd rather just go on eBay and sell it.
I think the first time I did that, I think it was even before GameStop was big. Do you remember FuncoLand?
I don't remember that.
They were like a video game store. They're like, oh, you give us your old games for cash. And then it's like, I went in with like 20 games. They're like, yeah, this is worth $1.27. Yeah. I was like, no.
And then they're going to turn around and sell it.
Selling it for like, $75 altogether on eBay or something.
So this announcement is not in the grand scheme of everything. 200 stores. They've got apparently 5,700 stores globally. So 200 out of that, I don't think it's that much of a big deal. What they're saying in an article I read was For every store there is within a 5 mile radius, there's a second store within that 5 mile radius.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, just in our area, I can think of 3 or 4.
I could think of 4 in a 5 mile radius. And at one
Yeah.
time where we live, there's a mall, a big giant mall. There were 2 of them in the mall, within probably 100 yards of each other.
Yeah.
So a little ridiculous. So I don't see this being a big deal. 200 stores is nothing. Maybe we'll get some good deals out of it. Who knows? All right, so moving on. Metropolis. I'm a big fan of Metropolis. They announced today that Metropolis, they have a gallery that's, I think it's on.
Jim, do you just want to? I don't know if we ever actually dove into what Metropolis is. Do you kind of want to like go into that real quick for people?
Sure. Metropolis, they're an auction house, right? Would you?
Yeah, they're an auction house. They're also like kind of like a private, almost like a private dealer of comic books as well.
I know they've got some huge monster books and lots of beautiful original art, and a lot of it you have to see it by appointment only. So they do have a gallery too that's in Midtown, New York. I think it's on 41st and like 6th or in between 6th or 7th, like that. I've been there once before. But what they're doing is they have an exhibit which opens the week of New York Comic Con, which is in 2 weeks. It's the J Scott Campbell exhibit. It's the guy we love to hate. So the gallery opens Friday, October 4th from 6 to 9, and it's open to the public. They're going to have about 120 pieces of original art. They're going to have some of his books on display, and the show runs until January 31st. So I think this is something we should check out. I like going there because you can see some other stuff that they got up on the walls.
TC, are they putting stuff up for purchase, or is it just going to be kind of like showing it off?
They do. I went to one of their galleries. It was who was it? Star Wars guy. We just saw him at Terrificon. Carpenter? No, it was one of the big guys.
Okay.
He had a gallery open there, and
is it John Cassidy?
John Cassidy. So he did have some stuff for sale. They had some books. Some of his books were up for sale, and I think there was some art that was for sale too. So I don't know what Scott's going to do about that, but it's pretty cool to check out.
I'm sure with like the high price tags that his stuff comes for. I mean, if someone's willing to pay, I'm sure he's going to take offers.
Oh hell yeah!
Just to clarify, I don't know if we've said this before. I feel like we might have, but Metropolis is the company that has currently the highest recorded graded copy of Action Comics #1, first appearance of Superman. So they're pretty big in the business. If you've ever been to a big con, you'll usually see them. If you're going to New York Comic Con in a couple weeks, they usually have a pretty big booth with like all these exuberant books that have high 100,000 or $1 million price tags on them.
Yeah, it's cool to check out if you're ever visiting the New York area. You can make an appointment to go check them out. It's a pretty cool gallery. Moving on here, TC, why don't you take the next one, because I'm not familiar with that.
Sure. So I was looking into kind of like some of the recent news happening in comic books, and I don't think we've mentioned this one before, but I saw releasing on October 9th, just a little bit after New York Comic Con madness is over, a new DC Black Label title called Joker Harley Criminal Sanity #1. It's going to be a mini-series to 9, another Black Label, so it's kind of geared more towards adults. The writer on this one is Cami Garcia, not familiar. I'm honestly not sure if that's a girl or a guy. Apologies with that person's work, I'm sure. Again, Bojo would know. So if he's listening right now, he'll be like, oh, it's this person. And apparently the art's being done by Mike May, who I am familiar with, and along with someone named Miko Suwayan. I'm sorry if I'm butchering that. It was previously slated that I noticed, so it's a little confusing that Andrea Sorrentino was working on this. I'm not sure if she just did #1 and Miko is picking up the rest, but it was a little unclear. I think Miko might just be taking over completely for Andrea. But it's going to focus kind of on Harley's early career as a young forensic psychiatrist and profiling consultant for the GCPD. It sounds pretty interesting. It sounds like kind of almost like an origin story for her. I like that it's going to be kind of coming from like an adult, an adult view.
Hmm.
I'm assuming we're going to see the culmination of this story being her transformation from Harley Quinzel to Harley Quinn. So that's actually one I'm pretty excited about from the Black Labels.
Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't done this already. Like, had her start out as a forensic psychologist. Like, we haven't seen that story yet.
I don't know. I haven't read any of her earlier stuff. Like, I know she had a series by Terry Dodson. I'm not sure who wrote that one. It's literally right above my head right now, but I can't see the writer on it. And the Batman Harley Quinn, like kind of the graphic novel, the one by Paul Dini and Yvel Gushit. That one was her introduction into continuity.
Hmm.
So I don't know again if like they go into her story then. I've never read either of them, unfortunately. I have them both. But yeah, I'm excited to read this one. It seems like a pretty cool idea. And she has, incredible popularity, so I'm sure it'll sell
Absolutely.
well.
Yeah, looking forward to this one.
I guess I'll just jump into the next one
Yeah, go
too,
for it.
because that one I added as well. Another one I'm excited about is Spider-Man 2099. So the whole 2099 universe is kind of making a comeback. I'm not sure if it was at San Diego Comic-Con or the D23 that they kind of teased the return of the 2099 universe. Anyone who's not familiar with like Spider-Man 2099, so there was a future, I think it was like 93 or 94 or in around that time period in the early 90s that they launched this Spider-Man 2099. His name is Miguel O'Hara, and he's from Nueva York, so distant future, which we're I guess getting pretty close to at this point. We're only 80 years away from it. But it was pretty cool. It was a different take on Spider-Man, and normally, I'm pretty much a Peter Parker purist, but I really enjoyed his storyline, and they wound up breaking off into a lot of other 2099 titles. I think there was like a Hulk title, a Punisher title. I never really read any of those other ones, a Doom title, but it seems like this is going to be a big thing. So he's starting off. He's going to come into the Amazing Spider-Man issues in like December, like 33, 34, and 35. And then there's going to be a bunch of one shots. So there's going to be a one. I literally just posted this on Don't Feed the Geeks today, but there's going to be a bunch of one shots. He's going to have like an Omega and an Alpha title, along with like a Spider-Man 2099 like one shot. This is going to be written by Nick Spencer
Hmm.
and the art by Jose Carlos Silva. And some of the other titles that I saw, I think there was a Doom title, a Doom 2099, a Ghost Rider 2099, Punisher 2099. Funny enough, a Conan 2099, Fantastic Four, a few other tie-ins. But I'm hoping that this leads into another relaunching of the 2099 universe, because we've seen the last time they did Spider-Man 2099, it was in like the present, which I think he's starting in, but I think he's going back to 2099 to kind of like try and save his future. So
Okay.
it seems interesting. I hope we get to see him go back to that world again and like kind of take off from there. But yeah, anyone who's into Spider-Man, definitely worth checking out Spider-Man 2099 if you've never gotten into it, or this might even be a good time to start it now. Again, that comes out in December.
Nice.
Yeah, so pretty pumped for that.
All right. All right. Last part of our news.
Yeah, a little off, not so much geek, but kind of geek news.
I read about this in the beginning of the week, but the U.S. Navy confirms that 3 UFO videos released last year, one from 2004 and 2 from 2015, were authentic, but the footage was never made public. So yeah, this
Well,
is
meant to be made public, right? It kind of leaked.
yeah, a little crazy. I spent some time in the Navy. I did a few West Packs. I was a West Coast sailor, so I've done some 6-month deployment. Not 6 months, 9 to 10 month deployments to the Persian Gulf, and I will confirm that we have tracked some weird stuff. So I believe this story. I'm a full believer of UFOs and everything else. One story I'll do this really quick, but my ship, we were in the middle of the Indian Ocean, And I got probably 20, 30 guys who confirm this with me, or not confirm it. Who knows? But we did track a weird, in the middle of the Indian Ocean, nothing, thousands of miles, nothing around us. We tracked something, and on our ship we had a guided missile launcher, and there's a laser on that. That's how we track things. And where I worked next to the CIC, which is the Combat Information Center. And that's where all the radars are. And I was in the room at the time that this all went down. But when they hit it with the laser, this thing took off straight up, out, gone.
Wow.
And we all kind of looked at each other, and there was no logs made of it. There was nothing. So you move on. And I've heard stories. This is not the first time I've heard things about this. So I'm a big believer in this.
I feel like I don't discount any possibility of like otherworldly intelligent life, but is a lot of this stuff chalked up to like kind of like maybe like test stuff, or like enemy devices, their secret devices that they don't think anyone can see, and they get spotted and they jet out of there?
It most likely could be. I mean,
yeah,
that's obviously
but it's fun to assume it's aliens.
It's that's why I love it. That's why I love this type of stuff, because we can't be the only ones, but it's always that what if,
Yeah.
So we'll see if this gets bigger. I don't know. It's kind of interesting.
So I just realized that we didn't say in the beginning that this is actually an interview episode.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go. You just said it.
So I think that we didn't have any more news at this point, right? Did you have anything else?
Nope. I think that was enough. It was more than we've This is more than we normally have.
Yeah, I think it was a good amount of stuff.
Yeah.
So we actually had an interview today. Interesting guy, Steven Biscotti. He's the founder of Universal Monsters Universe, host of the Saturday morning Superman show, part of the Royal Collectibles family. Cool guy. I'll let him explain all that stuff because he'll do a much better job than I will of it. So we're gonna have our interview with Steven Biscotti. Very cool interview today. The founder of Universal Monsters Universe, host of the Saturday morning Superman show, and part of the Royal Collectibles family, Mr. Steven Biscotti. Steven, thank you for joining us.
Wow. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
That was so impressive.
All right, Steven. So we've met you a couple times. We're frequently in the Royal booth or store. We love going there. It's one of our favorite shops around. And we've seen you there a few times. We know you're involved. We know you're into some geek culture. I can see from this video feed that no one else but the three of us can see. You've got quite a few things behind you there that are pretty cool. So like all our other guests, how about you give us your geek origin story, your comic geek origin story?
Well, it began 30 years ago. I rocketed to Earth from a doomed planet, and I crash landed in Forest Hills, Queens. And I grew up with a family that loved,
I just want to let you know that's the first Superman origin story we've gotten. We've gotten 2 Spider-Man ones so far.
That's funny.
Well, I mean, it's really, I grew up in a family that loved the classic monsters and loved comic books and loved, all the movies. And they, from my grandfather and from my mom and dad, they really imparted their enjoyments and their pleasures to me. And so it was really one of those things that growing up in Forest Hills, I was right at that age where Royal Collectibles, my local comic shop, they were opening, and they've been around for about 30 years now. And my grandfather would take me in, on weekdays and weekends, and we'd go in, and where they were, it was still on Metropolitan Avenue in Forest Hills, but it wasn't in the location that they're at now. And I would go in, and I would just go through a long box with them, and we'd look at the covers and pretty much anything from like Superman to Batman to Spider-Man to, the Valiant stuff and like Malibu comics, like Nightman. I don't know if anybody remembers Nightman, but like Nightman, he had a comic book, he had a TV show, he was like a jazz player, and I loved all of that stuff. I did. And it's something that's
our member Zach. I don't know, Bojo, we call him. You know him from. You probably know him from Best Comics. He would definitely know who Nightman is. I'm disappointed he's not here to discuss Nightman with you.
Maybe it's a good thing he's not here because it would be a one long ass show.
Yeah, I mean Nightman really, but yeah, so I grew up with all of that stuff, and I loved Marvel and I loved DC and again like classic monsters, and so it was about 6 years ago. 6 years ago, coming this October, I was I was shopping around, and Charlie, who worked there, he's the father of Chuck, who's the co-owner with Mike Giordano, who and they both run the shop. He said, like, Steve, like, like, do you want to help us out for New York Comic Con? And to me, that's one of those like dream, offers where if anybody ever asks you if you want to help out at a thing like Comic Con, it's always going to be a resounding yes. No matter what you're doing, no matter where you are, you say yes. And I did. And at the end of like a really crazy, like week of like just like getting, the booth prepared and all of that, I came out and we were like wrapping up and we were in the car going home, and he was like, like, Steve, like, like, did you want to work here? And at the time I was working at another job, so I would come at like when I would like get out of that other job, I would run up, I'd work there for a few hours, and then there came a point where I had the opportunity to really choose between one or the other, and I chose Royal, and it's a decision that I really am so happy that I made. And it was at Royal that really began my love of Superman, and especially in regards to collecting Superman and becoming the Superman fan that I am. Because it was back in 2013, it was like around 2013, early 2013, we got these promo bookmarks that said like the essential reads, to prepare you for Man of Steel.
That. That's about the same year I got into comic books, like fully as I am today.
Really?
So what year was it that you did the Comic Con with them?
It was 2013. Yeah, it was 2013. Wow. Actually, 2013. Yeah, 2013. Yeah. I had to think for a second. But yeah, no, 2013. Yeah, I started that year. It was the 75th anniversary of Superman that year at New York Comic Con, and that was my first one.
That's awesome. So what's your current role at Royal right now?
Right now, I help, run and manage the place, and especially like since we've opened up a second location in Royal's Astoria, I help really just help manage along with the rest of everybody else. Also, probably one of the bigger responsibilities that I have is I quite proudly run the Royal Collectibles Instagram page, and I love Instagram. I love social media. And I love having fun with people, be it by posting like an ad for like the 90s Spawn toys to get people talking, or, just fun stuff like weekly, videos on like the latest comic books to check out, new merchandise that I think is highlight worthy and stuff like that.
I think that's how our interaction started with all the comments I make on all the Royal Collectibles posts. It's just like, I remember, I think it was at the CriticalCon. I was like, is he the guy who makes a lot of those Long Island Comic Con posts? I was like, yeah, that's me. At least it was at the time. But yeah, we really love Royal. My favorite thing about Royal is like you can tell it has a very family atmosphere. Like, you go in that store, you're very welcomed. The first time I went in there, I know our friend Tom Polari. He brought me the first time, and it's just like, I think I must have spent, I don't want to say over the air in case my wife ever hears this, but I spent quite a deal of money.
She's not listening.
Picked up a lot of Spider-Man. It was great. It was a great experience, and I've always come back. I feel like you're never gonna get swindled at Royal Collectibles. Like, you go in there and you kind of feel safe. It's like it's a safe place for collectors, and that's my favorite thing about buying and going to them for advice.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more.
Whoa. I think we're
from when they first started, and the family environment and the fact that it's a family-run business and it's a mom and pop shop in a sense, and that they've been in business for so long, that they survived throughout the 90s when the bottom dropped out for a lot of comic book shops, and even up until about 10 years ago, where a lot of local ones were closing up. It's been really rewarding to me as somebody that started going there as a customer, to see how well they're doing, and now to kind of almost be in the kitchen and to see how the secret sauce is made. It's something that I really consider a great honor, because I do love comic books, and like I said, from the first time when my grandfather took me into the shop, to be a part of that and to be a part of a culture that really embraces all aspects of fandom and is very supportive of one another and is there for one another. It's a unique environment to be in, and I'm really fortunate to have that environment where it's very stimulating to me, creatively, and it's also it helps line my wallet a little bit, so I can buy stuff like the Fleischer Cryptozoic Superman statue and stuff like that. And pretty much I think if you see behind me, I think the majority of all of my Superman stuff, bar maybe just 2 or 3 items, it's all from Royal. And that's another cool thing to think that everything that I love really comes through that shop.
And it's great that they can just pay you in Superman stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. Just weekly Superman books, Hot Toys, premium formats. That's it, Mike. I don't need anything else.
That's hilarious. So it's cool that how you said that it's kind of been a generational thing, from your parents and even your grandfather kind of inspiring you to do this stuff. So your parents and grandparents thought it was okay to get you into the monster universe pretty early, huh?
oh yeah. Well, I mean, my grandfather, you have to consider that this was a man that was a kid, and I mean, he grew up with them, and he saw these films like Dracula and Frankenstein when they were in the movie theaters, and he was a part of that birth of these classic cinema icons that we now really just readily take for granted in a lot of ways, especially come Halloween season, and you just think of things like Frankenstein and the Wolfman and the Mummy. And I some of my early memories of him, he would have his coat and he would pull it up around his nose, and he would do the Dracula thing, and they were always films that I enjoyed through him, and it was really my father, his favorite Universal monster was always the Wolfman, and every Halloween he would dress up as the Wolfman. He had the American Werewolf in London makeup kit that had released, and my mom, I would watch every Halloween, my mom transformed my father into a werewolf. And I remember it was one of the scariest things ever. I would watch my father go from, is he man or monster? Is he both? Hulk reference for everyone. I would watch my dad become a werewolf, and I would be so scared by the end of it that I didn't want to go near him. I didn't want him to hug me, and I would be so terrorized by the iconography of the makeup from a 1941 film, and that just was a part of me growing up. And I was born in 1989, so the 90s were a big decade for the Universal monsters, where they had everything from early sideshow collectibles action figures, and Burger King had a lot of tie-ins with them, where they had a lot of throwback Remco figures. And it was inescapable, and for somebody that loved all of that stuff, it was such a great time to be a part of. And growing up where we have something like the internet, and we have blogging, and we have podcasting and social media, it just really helped me connect with a whole lot of other people that love it, and hopefully able to contribute a few things new to it that maybe other people aren't talking about.
So how did this turn into you doing Universal Monsters Universe? Is that the correct name of it, Universal Monsters Universe?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, it's funny because sometimes people call it Universal Monster Universe, but yeah, no, you got it right, Universal Monsters Universe. So it's interesting. So a lot of the things that I enjoy and that I find myself a part of really came through Royal. And like I said, I started working there 6 years ago, and Mike, who's the co-owner, he's a Spider-Man fanatic, and he's a completist where he has every issue, every statue, everything. Yeah, you could think of, and so his fandom and him being a completist was really imparted onto me with Superman, where I started to think about like, well, how could I collect it? But also Royal really helped introduce me to a lot of really great customers who became really great friends of mine, and it was probably about like somebody who came in. He ran a blog, and he was looking for somebody to write for him. And Diane, who works there, said, you might want to talk to Steve. He went to school, he majored in English, and this is something that he really wants to do, and maybe him could work something out. So I began collaborating with him for a little bit. And
sorry, Steve, you're cutting in and out.
And
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Let me just adjust this then.
Yeah.
Do you want me to go back and just restart that, or?
No, I think you're all right.
You can go on. Just tell us how who it was that kind of approached you. I think that was the name we missed there.
Okay. Yeah. So Diane had introduced me to a customer at Royal, and his name's Chuck. He runs the site called whatchareading.com, okay. And he does comics, comic reviews, movies, all stuff like that. And I Toy Fair, and I was able to attend Comic-Con as part of press, and I got to really enjoy that. And it was in 2015.
I'm sorry, Steve. You're
film series that I really love. Mission Impossible movie series with Tom Cruise, and that was right around the time that Mission Impossible.
Yeah, you cut out again.
I was writing everything about it. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's all right.
I think it might be the video feed.
Sorry.
Technical difficulties.
Are you on a Wi-Fi connection?
Do you want me to just go to microphone? Would that be easier? Do you want to try that out?
It doesn't matter. Can you even hear me?
I can barely hear you.
Very low.
All right, we'll try that out. No. All right, continue on. You can continue on.
Okay. So she introduced me to this person. I asked him if I could champion a movie series that I really wanted to write about, and that was Mission Impossible. And I was writing about it so authoritatively that it actually caught the attention of the director, Christopher McQuarrie. And he would favorite, and retweet a lot of articles that I wrote. And it was like one night I got like a few direct messages from him on Twitter where I was just thanked for like everything that I was doing for it. And I actually ended up getting to go to a friends and family screening of Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. And I got to meet him, and I got to meet Tom Cruise, and they actually mailed to my house a thank you gift, which was a letter and a signed poster. And it was a little after that talk of a Mummy reboot happened, and there was talk that Tom Cruise was going to be a part of it. And this was before any Dark Universe news or anything like that. And I looked over, all the stuff that was coming out and thinking, wow, it would be really cool to have like a blog for this. And, I hadn't seen anybody else talk about it or talk about it in the way that people were talking about like the MCU or the DCEU. And I thought, well, like, imagine being the person that creates like the Instagram account or a blog for like the Marvel Cinematic Universe circa 2010 when Iron Man 2 came out. And imagine if they're still running it today with like Infinity War and Endgame and where they could be with that fandom if only they started it back then instead of jumping into it now. So my friend who's one of my creative partners, his name's Joe. We started to talk about it, and we often joke that it was a kitchen conversation, an idea where he was over my house, and I said to him, you know what, I think we should do this. And at the time it went through where I was thinking about maybe buying like a domain name and seeing if then maybe Universal had to just come to me later on and say, hey, look, we got to buy this from you. There was all of that stuff that I was like really getting into and reading about. But he was the one that pushed me to create an actual site and to build social media extensions for it. And we did. We started a year before The Mummy came out in 2016. And we started talking about it so much that we once again caught the attention of a lot of the cast and crew. and it became a weekly thing where every week we would chronicle the production of the movie, and we would talk about what the cast and crew were up to. And a lot of people on the set would send us photos and sound bites and stuff like that that nobody else had. And Sophia Boutella, who played the mummy in that, she was also in Kingsman and Star Trek Beyond. She would text us stuff and send us pictures. And it was this surreal experience to be really just some kid from Queens who was writing a blog about something that people were really responding to. And it was in 2017, May of 2017, that we first got an email from Universal asking if they could speak with the person running the site. And I was very excited, but also very nervous. And we scheduled a phone chat. And that whole day I was like walking on like pins and needles, where I was like, oh my God, like this is going to be great or this is going to be terrible.
Yeah.
And so the person who called said, we really enjoy what you're doing. And normally in situations like these, it could go in one of two ways. We could either say, look, we like what you're doing, but we got to ask you to shut it down. Or we could really encourage you and ask you if you want to be a part of the Universal Studios digital family. And they brought, after a few phone conversations and stuff like that, they brought Universal Monsters Universe into the digital family wing of Universal Studios. And we began to cover it in a very official way, where Universal would then provide us with information and send us official images, as opposed to us having to scour online for stuff like that. And we got to go to the New York City premiere of the movie. And we got to speak with several people, from like the director to the whole cast, in person. And it was a really wonderful experience to be a fan of it from the time that I was a kid to then be an adult, where I'm writing about it, but I'm also interacting with the people that are now taking care of this series. It was really surreal and really humbling. And it really just started out of my desire to cover a Universal Monster movie, and really just to cover a Tom Cruise movie. And now we have The Invisible Man that comes out in about 5 months, comes out in February 2020. And we're basically doing the same thing. They just wrapped filming last week, and we've been able to talk to Lee Wanell, the director. He did a movie called Upgrade, and he also did like the first Saw movie, and he's friends with James Wan. And we've gotten to speak with people that are working on the film, and people that are starring in it. And yet again, we find ourselves in this very surreal place where we're getting to interact with people that we're fans of. And it's really very fan friendly, and very, as a fan, really, honestly, it's surreal. That's really the best way that I could describe it.
That's really awesome. I mean, that's kind of like the dream almost, right? To be involved in something you love. It's kind of what I think inspired us to like do what we're doing also,
Absolutely.
Like we had a similar thing where we had a conversation, in like a car ride back from a convention, where it's like, we should just do something. Like, we just want to be more involved. Like, we love this stuff. We want to take it to kind of the next level. But it's cool that, that turned out that way. It's awesome that you're having like, they're like, hey, we like what you're doing. We want you to do more. We want you to be involved. Like, they took you like under the umbrella, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's something that I've never had any experience like that before. And again, I can't stress enough that, between me and the people that I have helping me run the social media extensions and even writing stuff for me for the site, we're all just fans of this stuff, but we all have our other things that we do. And to think that like a studio recognizes that, it's almost unheard of. There was a story that I heard of somebody that was a big like Alien Predator fan, and he had like a really sizable Instagram account. And I heard that like 20th Century Fox at one point were trying to like shut down like his Instagram, and like he basically was saying, look, like, I'm like giving you like free promotion and stuff like that. And so to have like the flip side of that like equation, where Universal was really so good to me and generous to all of us that were doing it, it stands out, and it just really is very encouraging, and really just, I just can't support, those movies enough. And whenever anybody comes into Royal, I'm always ready to have a conversation about it, and, offer little nuggets of information that I do happen to have. And it's really just so cool.
It's definitely one of those kind of closer to home, like follow your dream stories. Like, it's easy to, hear that from like Arnold Schwarzenegger or, some big star, when they're so, so far ahead of everyone else. But, this is kind of a follow your dream story too, which is awesome.
That's cool.
and I have to, again, I have to plug Royal Collectibles again because, I happen to be fortunate where
It happens a lot on the show, don't worry.
It's the truth that, I happen to find myself at a creative point where I wanted to talk about the things that I love and I wanted to write about the things that I love. And honestly, if I found myself anywhere else, I really wouldn't have the time for it, but I wouldn't have the encouragement for it. And because they're a family unit and that they all get fandom and they all get the desire to create, they were very supportive of me from the beginning. And even now it's remarkable where, especially over this past year with Invisible Man filming, there were days where I'd be at work and I'd get like an email or like a notification that like something has to go up. And, like we all talk about entertainment, we all understand the idea of like breaking news. And like sometimes if you get to be the person to break news, it does wonders for your following and just for the legitimacy of what you're doing and what you're putting out there. And from Mike and Diane and really everybody there, they'd be like, no, Steve, like go off, like go downstairs, use our computer if you need to type something up. And, if you need to post something on Instagram right now, just go for it. And really, I have to credit all of the success that I've had. It's really been so much to them and really their positivity and their encouragement of just allowing me to do what I want to do and what I want to pursue.
That's awesome. I mean, you didn't even need to tell me that for me to know that those guys were great people and supportive people. But it seemed that you didn't have a busy enough plate, so you decided to launch a podcast as well about Superman.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's so odd because right now I happen to find myself where, we're gearing up for New York Comic Con at Royal, but it's also been a very busy year and my responsibilities there have tremendously increased, especially as we've opened up a second store in Astoria. So I've got a store that I'm helping to run and I've got a site where I have to put out almost daily content, across everything. And we're working alongside a film production. And yeah, what do I go off and say that I need to do now but create a podcast and record episodes and now jump into that whole arena. And that brings us to Saturday Morning Superman show. All right.
So I've listened to the first one so far. I haven't gotten a chance to listen to episode 2. So why don't you tell everyone like a little bit about what Saturday Morning Superman podcast is about? Because you'll do a much better job explaining it than I will.
You are a Superman guy, though.
Well, hold on.
You are a Superman. No, I said you are a Superman guy, so I feel like if you were to talk about it, you could definitely service it pretty well.
Yeah, but I know it's very it's mostly about the animated series, right?
It is, yeah. I'm a big fan of Bruce Timm. It's something that Tom Pilari and I normally always talk about, especially with Batman the Animated Series. And I love his like the simplicity, yet like his line work is so simplistic, but it's so iconic and timeless. And whether you like Batman from the comic books or the movies or the cartoons, you look at his Batman and that's Batman. Same could be said for Superman. And it was really over the past couple of years that I really felt like Superman the Animated Series wasn't being championed in the way that I wanted to see it being championed. And I didn't see people talking about it. I didn't see people really posting about it in as loving a way as so many people do for Batman. And it was earlier this year in May where somebody had come in and it's another friend of mine from Royal. He's a fireman. He started out in the police department. He's now in the fire department, and he's a real hero, and he's a real Superman. And he was saying, like, yeah, Steven, you should do, like, a Superman show. And I didn't really take it seriously. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I think I am going to do a Superman show. And if I were to do a Superman show, it would air on Saturday mornings, and it would be about Superman in animation across generations. And I went home and I started to really think about it, and like the idea kind of took hold of me, and I was like, you know what? I always wanted to do a podcast, and I think I could do this. And nobody else is really talking about Superman in animation like they are about Batman. And there's a few people out there that are, but they're only focusing on certain areas of it. And so I thought, let me do Superman the animated series. Let me do Superman the Max Fleischer series. Let me do the Ruby Spears cartoon, Super Friends, and all of that. And I'll have hopefully enough material that I could conceivably run on for X amount of seasons and really not grow stale, and offer something that's very authoritative but very friendly to fans and to non-fans. And ultimately, if I could create a Superman show that brings to life the ideals and the standards and the family friendliness of like the original radio show, but bring it to 2019 standards, which would be a podcast. I really want to do that, and I think so far everybody that's helped me along the way has helped give me the exact kind of Superman show that I'd want to listen to as a fan.
That's a cool idea. I have noticed that, obviously everyone loves Batman the animated series. I was a big fan. I did also watch the Superman one. It just seemed that, Batman's always got more love than Superman. I mean, I'm just gonna throw it out there now. It's like he's the more glamorous character, even though Superman's kind of the hero that all the other heroes look up to. I feel like that's how I kind of like to describe him to people.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think especially after like the Dark Knight trilogy, Batman was launched to this like place that I don't think he's ever been as big as he is now. And you're coming off of like the Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo run, and so many great artists and writers that are really contributing to this legacy and to this mythology. And it's funny because the thing is, I was always a Batman guy. I loved Keaton. I liked Kilmer. I kind of grew up. It's strange because the thing is, I grew up in the shadow of the Christopher Reeve movies. So It wasn't until I was a little older that I really discovered them and I really fell in love with them. But Batman was coming out, all throughout my childhood, and so Batman, especially with the animated series, it was always there, and I always loved Batman. And I was a fan from like 97 when Batman and Robin came out to 2005 when Batman Begins came out. And people kind of forget that Batman was in the gutter at that time.
Yeah.
People didn't like him. People weren't talking about him like they are now. And so where Batman is, he really has surpassed Superman in a lot of ways. But, Superman's the granddaddy of them all. 1938, he started the whole thing. And oh boy, do I love Superman.
I'm right there with you. Oh man, that's awesome. So I know there's one other kind of thing I've noticed you were into. You're a big Alien fan. From your post, I've seen like a whole Alien inspired room that you have there.
That's true.
Was that just kind of like another monster flick to you? Like how did you get into that franchise?
Yeah, so for me, I grew up with my dad showing me like all of the Arnold movies and all of like the Stallone movies, and so I was an action movie kid. I watched Predator, I watched Terminator 2, and like one of my earliest memories was that I think I was in like kindergarten, and my mom comes in and she's like says to my like dad like to my dad, my father's name's Ralph. She's like, Ralph, like what are you showing him? And like I turn to my mom and I'm like, oh, he's just like a robot. And like I'm like kid talking about all of that. Like I can't even say the name robot right. But
yeah.
I just was so excited by it. And to me, like Arnold and Stallone and all of these guys were like action figures coming to life. I was a big 100%. He-Man kid. And so like you're seeing real life action figures that are people that are larger than life just put out like the coolest movies ever. And so Alien, specifically Aliens, it was a James Cameron movie, and he did True Lies, and he did Terminator 2. He did Terminator 2, which I think is one of the best movies of all time, one of the biggest action movies of all time. And so Aliens, I was totally in love with, and I love the monster design of the xenomorphs, but I was so in love with Sigourney Weaver, and she was kind of carrying that torch at the time that Linda Hamilton was with the Sarah Connor role.
Yeah, 100%.
we had more action figures, I think, for the Aliens movies than Terminator. And so I remember like routinely going to like KB's and like Play World and like Toys R Us and like picking out like an Alien figure. And so I had an Ellen Ripley Kenner action figure, and I had it all, like I'd always play with it, carry it to school, all that kind of stuff. And when I was about like 8, I think I was like 8 or 9, I met Sigourney Weaver. She was filming a movie a few blocks away from my house, and we just walked up and we didn't really have to wait long, and she kind of came out, and I approached her, and I was a kid, and she couldn't have been nicer, and I was totally starstruck and speechless, and like really like my cheeks were blushing red, and I was just like seeing like it was such a weird thing, because like, so I grew up like enamored by Ellen Ripley on screen, and now like I'm meeting her and I'm a kid, and there's a lot to be said for when you're a kid and you're meeting people, or you're reading about things in comic books, or you're seeing things. You're very impressionable, but you're very open to these bigger universes, and it was so wild to meet the person who brought Ellen Ripley to life, and she signed an Alien book, and she couldn't have been nicer. And so it was a few years ago when like NECA started releasing like the action figures. There really wasn't a lot of like Ripley merchandise out there, so I thought, you know what, let me just collect everything Sigourney Weaver Aliens related, and I started doing that, and that kind of became like where I had like every single figure and every single Funko Pop and the Sideshow Hot Toys and like everything Ripley, Sigourney Weaver, you name it, it's like a Superman thing. Like anything, it doesn't matter whether it's a Pog or a pencil case or a T-shirt or a pin, anything with her on it, I'll buy. And kind of like how I am with Superman. And
I'll have to tell Mike over at Cape Justice he needs to make Aliens or Sigourney Weaver pin.
He does. Normally I've been wearing almost every single day I wear one of Mike's Superman animated series pins, and I have his like Superman the movie pins, but I love his Superman animated ones, and there's nobody else that has that stuff out there. He's so cool.
Yeah, he's a good guy. We're planning on talking to him later in the year. I know might have mentioned to you, we have looking at kind of help out that Superman celebration going on. Soon. Yeah. So we're looking to get more involved with that, and hoping to pull all the Superman fans out there into that. But we'll go more into that on a later date.
Yeah.
All right. So I really have one more thing that I want to give you a chance here. So you ever seen that meme where the guy's like, he says something and try to convince me otherwise?
Yes. Oh yes. Yeah.
So
yeah.
So I'm going to say Brie Larson's performance as Captain Marvel is robotic, emotionless, and a dry interpretation. Convince me otherwise.
It's funny because the thing is like so right now, as you both guys could see, like it's almost like a pharaoh being buried in a pyramid with like all the things that he loves. I've got Superman to the right of me. I've got Ripley to the left of me. I've got Captain Marvel in my Brie Larson box like somewhere over here. Oh man, I wasn't always a big Captain Marvel fan, to be quite honest with you, and it was a character that I enjoyed because I do like sci-fi. I'm a big Star Trek guy. I'm a big Star Wars fan. And so having a cosmic superhero definitely spoke to my interests like the Hulk did in regards to him being a monster. But it was something about like when the movie was coming out that I liked what they were showing on screen. And I liked that we were seeing another side of the Marvel Cinematic Universe that we really hadn't seen before, other than like maybe Guardians of the Galaxy. And I'm a big sucker for cosmic stuff. Mm-hmm. And I'm familiar with Brie Larson and like with like Scott Pilgrim and Freefall and like Kong Skull Island, and I don't really I quite like her very much, and when I saw the movie, I really I dug her performance so much, and I say it to a lot of people because I wear like a Captain Marvel shirt at least once a week. So I'm always like, I've got like that poster board at work where like, I'm always talking about it. And you see, the thing is like, first I will say that like, I can't remember a Marvel movie within recent memory that came out X amount of months ago, and I'm still that hyped about it. Like, I still want to talk about Captain Marvel, and I'm still, like, just like enjoying that whole picture. And
well, I don't want to cut you off. I didn't dislike the movie. I enjoyed it kind of in spite of her performance. It just seemed something was off. Like, I don't know what it was. And we had a whole episode where we had this debate, and it's just like, I don't know if she was directed to perform that way. Because I mean, I've seen some of the stuff that you mentioned. I haven't seen her in Kong Island, but I don't dislike, some of her other performances. This just seemed so weird. Like, it seemed like she was like almost like supposed to be a robot, or she's like, I was like, oh, so maybe she's not human. Maybe this is how, like, whatever race she's from behaves.
Yeah.
Maybe she is a Kree. So it's
Yeah,
just strange.
I rewatched RoboCop about a few weeks ago, and just like, I love RoboCop again. I love all those 80s movies.
100%.
And one of the films that the directors Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck had cited that they were inspired by was RoboCop and Alex Murphy's journey from cop to RoboCop to back to Alex Murphy. And if you go back and kind of watch Captain Marvel closely alongside RoboCop, there's this whole kind of like journey of discovery where it's very robotic and very emotionless. That I find connects to that film quite well. I mind you, like, I'm not saying this is better than Paul Verhoeven's RoboCop, because nothing's going to top that. But I bought more into this kind of like fish out of water story where she's she's a human, but she doesn't know she's human. She believes, like she's a part of like the Kree, and she's a part of Star Force, and she doesn't have any memory of her past. And so it's kind of like this, very much this one note of like, I'm part of Star Force, I'm a soldier, that's it. And it's very, live or die, by this mantra. And so I enjoyed that aspect of the movie because, again, it did remind me a little bit of RoboCop, where she's discovering her abilities and rediscovering her confidence. And I do like the snarkiness. I like the snarkiness and the sarcasm and the wittiness of it. It's kind of like Tony Stark, but not like Tony Stark. And
I'm all for snarkiness and sarcasm. You can ask JJ here. He'll definitely he'll definitely agree to that.
Absolutely.
But I don't know. It was just weird. I'll be honest, I have only watched it the one time. I'm gonna
you gotta change that, man.
I'm gonna give it another watch, and with your comments in mind. But we'll see. I'm not convinced 100% yet.
I think for me, one of the things that I do like about it is like the behind the scenes aspects. So like the first scene where she awakes on Hala, and she like gets up out of her bed and she looks at the city. She's in like a white tank top, and the outfit that she's wearing is very similar to what Sarah Connor's wearing when you first get introduced to her in T2 when she's in the hospital. Yep. And so like I thought like, oh man, like I get that visual cue. And then there's a lot of like RoboCop stuff like throughout the movie, and especially with like the memory flashbacks and stuff like that, that it was like, oh, like this is kind of like RoboCop. And also she kind of oddly reminded me a lot of like a live action Buzz Lightyear, especially from Toy Story 1, where like Buzz is like on the bed and he totally believes everything that about himself, and he's like completely wrong. And like there's that whole early scene where she's like talking to Fury about like Star Force and Kree and all of that. And it sounds like so ridiculous, and she doesn't believe that like he can't believe her. And so it's kind of like that like silliness of like Buzz Lightyear that I really enjoyed that they brought to it. So there were a lot of like outside things that going into it and watching it that I really enjoy. And I mean, look, they play No Doubt and have a big action sequence, and I'm a No Doubt fan. I love Gwen Stefani. And
so we agree she's a robot.
We agree that she's similar to RoboCop.
Okay, gotcha. She's RoboCop. You know what? I'm gonna give it another watch.
But cooler than RoboCop.
And I'm gonna take your comments into account when I watch it again, and I'll let you know. We'll have a follow-up episode. JJ, were you gonna say something? Sorry.
So yeah, I got to watch it a couple times, and I still don't like it.
Oh man, you got to tell me why you don't like it. I love hearing from people that don't like it because I really am so interested. You know,
it's everything that Well, I'm pretty loud here. It's everything that TC said. Just very robotic. I recently just watched Kong, the King Kong movie that she was in, and it still didn't change my mind about her. I just don't think she's a very good actress. It's just there's no what's the word I'm looking for? Like
emotion.
Emotion. There's no emotion. That's a great word. There's no emotion. Her face is
that's my main thing. It seemed like, so the first time watching it to us, I think we kind of discussed it, and it was just, it seemed like she was kind of there to collect a paycheck so she could do something else.
Right.
Yeah, I think if you look at like a lot of like the other actresses that have been in the MCU films, they're bringing, a body of work that's just like I remember from like when they cast the first Iron Man movie and they had Gwyneth Paltrow in it. And whether you like Paltrow or not, it's just they were really going for something different than a lot of other comic book movies, and they were getting real like performers and prestige kind of actors and actresses. I find like the problem with Captain Marvel that I will say is that, this was a film that there was a lot of fan speculation and fan casting that existed online well before there was even talk about a movie. A lot of people had mentioned like someone like Katie Sackhoff from like Battlestar Galactica. And, when you start out with such like a high note of who could play the character, and then you announce somebody that couldn't be further from your imagination. Yeah. It's that place where you have to reconcile with like, okay, am I going to be okay with this? And am I going to be all right with seeing this person be the face of this character for conceivably the rest of my life? Or are they going to do something cool with it and I'll buy into it? And so I think with a lot of like the characters, a lot of the people that they had rumored, I would have liked to have seen a few other people over her, but I just kind of like accepted it at a point where, it's a lot like with Jesse Eisenberg. He wasn't my first idea for Lex, and there were a lot of people that were being rumored at the time, like Cranston and Joaquin Phoenix and Mark Strong, and a lot of people that were like, oh shoot, like the Lex that we might get after Kevin Spacey could be really, really cool.
Yeah.
And when they cast him, it was kind of like, oh wow, like, all right, I did not expect that, but it was just kind of like a, like I'll take it, and just the fact that we're getting a character like that on screen, I'm all right with. And like I said, Captain Marvel, I only really became a fan of over the past like 2 years or so, where I really started to immerse myself in the comic books, especially like the original run, where it was Marvel. And I was just, I like the costuming of it. I love cosmic stuff. And I kind of just accepted it as its own kind of movie where like we're getting another space movie with spaceships and aliens and cool action. And I like seeing it, and I would like hopefully to see maybe with Captain Marvel 2 or wherever she does appear next, for them to show a little more with the character. I think where we meet her in Captain Marvel 1, it's a very different place than a lot of the other superheroes, given her origin being very different than the other ones. And hopefully they'll be able to do something special with it.
All right. I think this is definitely going to be a to be continued on Captain Marvel and Brie Larson.
Absolutely.
But thanks. I appreciate your opinion, and I will take all of this information you've provided us into my mind when I watch it again.
Well, what I do have to add is on the Saturday morning Superman show, I do talk a lot about how much I love Cavill and how much I love Man of Steel. And that's another very divisive movie amongst the fan community where people either love it or they hate it. Yeah, what were you going to say?
I said, not me. I love it.
Okay, so yeah, I feel like there's that body of Superman fans that they really get it and they really enjoy it. And then the other ones that are like, oh no, like this is not Superman. And so I do talk a lot about that, not to talk over the animation that Superman, that is the nature of the podcast, but hopefully that's one of those things that anybody that's listening, if you don't like Man of Steel or Batman v Superman, you might listen to that, and I talk about that a little more in depth, and you might say like, oh yeah, I got to definitely go back and rewatch it with Steven's like show notes.
All right, we're gonna have another conversation about Batman v Superman another day, but So give us a little information on how people can find all these different things that you're involved in here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the Saturday Morning Superman show is a passion project for me because ultimately, at the end of the day, I do love Superman. He's my favorite of all time, and it's an extension of my fandom where it's kind of like, all right, I might not ever have Action Comics #1, but what I can say is I have a podcast, and right now that podcast is on Castbox, Stitcher, and Podbean. We'll be moving to iTunes, YouTube, and Spotify in about a month or so. It's only by the nature of me being so busy that I haven't had really time to upload them elsewhere. So I've only had limited amount of time to focus on those three places. But it is on Castbox, Stitcher, Podbean. And if you go online, we have an Instagram account right now and a Twitter account. Saturday Morning Superman on Instagram, Superman Show on Twitter. I believe I got that correct, but it's easy to find as soon as you type in the keyword. And we air every Saturdays at 9 a.m. And the first season consists of 13 episodes. So each episode, we're looking at the first season of Superman, the animated series. And we've actually already recorded all of season 1, and we're in the process of finishing season 2, which delves into the Fleischer animated shorts. And then we'll be looking at it as like an anthology of sorts, where every season reflects a different moment of Superman in animation. But that's where you could currently find Saturday Morning Superman show. And if you love the classic monsters like Dracula and Frankenstein and the Mummy, and if you're interested in like the newer films, be it Dark Universe or be it The Invisible Man or the upcoming Dark Army film that's currently being written, you could find all of that news on UniversalMonstersUniverse.com. We provide almost daily updates on all the new things that are happening in the world, from film news to merchandise news to events, along with delving into the originals and fun little introspectives. And we're all across social media, so you can find us at Universal Monsters Universe on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr.
Nice.
Awesome.
Wow.
That's great, man. It sounds like a lot of fun. This was awesome. I hope you enjoyed doing this. We'll have to do this again.
I did, yeah. I'm sorry that I was a little late, and I'm sorry if my microphone.
Like it just did.
Like it just did. You still there? Oh no.
Yep, he completely froze up.
Oh no.
He's very sorry that it happened.
Oh no. This is not cool.
Yep, completely frozen.
He's
okay.
Gone. Okay. We may have to end this for him.
All right. Well, we're gonna thank Steve, even though he's frozen here, and we're gonna have him on again for sure. And we're gonna give him a second to see if we can reconnect with it.
And we'll put all these his info in the show notes. Oh, is he back?
Was that?
You there?
Sorry, you completely froze for like 5 seconds.
Yep. No, it was longer than 5 seconds.
Am I back now?
You're back.
Yeah, you're back. Okay. All right. Well, thanks again, Steve. We're gonna have to do this again. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, I had a blast. When it comes to talking about Superman and He-Man and comic books and all that stuff, I'm always up for a conversation.
Yeah, we didn't even get into He-Man. He-Man's another one I can go on for a while on.
Yeah, we got to talk about like the new animated series. We got to talk about the upcoming movie. We got to talk about your thoughts on She-Ra on Netflix. So that's a whole nother thing.
We'll have a whole show dedicated to that.
Sounds good. I'm up for that. All right, Steve. Well, thank you again, and we look forward to launch this episode. It'll be available on Monday, the 23rd. Is that Monday?
Monday, whatever Monday is.
Yeah, Monday the 23rd. Yes, September.
Okay,
23rd.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Nice.
All right, cool. So we'll catch you again soon.
Okay,
right,
thanks, guys.
Thanks.
All right, thanks again to Steven Biscotti. Great interview, fantastic interview.
That was good.
One of our best. We'd love to have him on again and talk to more members of the Royal family, of course, the Royal Collectibles family at least, not the actual Royal family. But let's do a little reading, watching. Just so you know, we do have a couple of segments in the work for future episodes. Maybe some fun stuff, a little bit. Not we'll still do reading and watching, but different things to mix it up. But we're working on meeting, getting all the minds together, and making sure we put that in an understandable way for us all to understand.
There you go.
So JJ, you want to kick off reading and watching?
Sure. What am I reading? So in preparation for our book club, which is actually next Friday, which would be what, the 20, geez,
September 27th?
September 27th. It's not next week. We have 2 weeks on that? No, it is next week. Next Friday, September 27th. I'm reading Planet Hulk still. I'm a little behind. I haven't been able to.
Well, this will be releasing on Monday, so it'll be this Friday.
This
September
Friday.
27th.
There you go. The 27th. Our book club, which is Planet Hulk. So I'm still trying to get through those books as much as I can. So I'll probably wrap that up this weekend or early next week.
And just so everyone knows, it will again be available on Twitch, Facebook Live, and YouTube.
There you go. Perfect.
That's all of them. Yeah.
Yep.
We got pretty decent engagement. We'd love more. We want you guys to interact with us. So if you listen to this now, it's probably going to be about 8:30 on Friday.
Yep.
If you can't log on then, we understand family obligations and stuff like that. Watch it later. It's available afterwards on YouTube. We had probably 10 times as many views afterwards that we did during it. And even if you can't respond on the spot, hit us up on Instagram. Tell us what you liked about it, or anywhere on social media, what you didn't like, things you think we could have done differently, and we'll take all those suggestions and kind of try to apply them so everyone gets a good show from us.
There you go. So yeah, that's really the only thing I've read. What am I watching? All the shows all the TV shows are coming back. What, next week? I think they start.
I think so, something like that. A week or two.
So I've been going all over Amazon Prime. I recently discovered Amazon Prime. So there's a lot of movies on there and a lot of TV shows that I'm catching up on. I'm obsessed with Jack Ryan. So I watched it full run by myself, and now I'm watching it a second time with my wife, and she's obsessed with it. Jack Ryan, man, love the show. I cannot wait for season 2, which comes out, I think, the week of New York Comic Con, because they're doing a panel there.
I think it's November 1st. It's supposed to be coming out.
Is it November 1st?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the last I heard of it.
Well, I know they're doing a panel at New York Comic Con. I thought they were going to show like the first episode or something.
That's possible. I don't know if that's good. I don't think it's going to be a wide release, but it's possible that they might be doing a preview of that.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with it. I just can't get enough. So
yeah, me and my wife, we watched it when it came out too, and it was fantastic. Anyone who hasn't heard of it, John Krasinski, you'll know him as Jim from The Office.
Yeah.
He's done a bunch of stuff now. He's kind of, coming into that action star role, and he does a great job. Him and I forgot the actor who plays Greer, but fantastic. I love their relationship.
Yeah.
It was really a great show. I'm pumped to watch the second season of it. I'm sure we'll finish it in a couple days.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Tom Clancy movies. I love his books. I mean, I haven't read.
Oh yeah, I've seen all of them too.
Yeah, so I it's funny. I haven't seen them all. Like I just watched Some of All Fears this week, which is, again,
Ben
it's
Affleck.
Yeah, I didn't know Ben Affleck played Jack Ryan.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? I was lying because there was one with Chris Pine, right?
Yes, that's the newest one, which I haven't seen.
Yeah, I didn't see that one.
And then you have 2 of them with Harrison Ford, and then the other one with what's that?
Alec
the Baldwin brother, which The Hunt for Red October, which is one of my favorite movies.
Which is definitely my favorite. That's the first one.
That's
right?
the first one. Yep.
Yeah.
So
I think he was supposed to continue doing it, but James Earl Jones was the General Greer, I think, in all of those.
That's right.
Which was awesome.
Yeah.
Early Samuel L. Jackson in one of the Harrison Fords too. I get them confused. Like I never remember which one's which. Whichever one where Sean Bean is like one of the Irish terrorist.
Yeah.
That's the one Samuel L. Jackson's in.
Oh yeah, I haven't. What is it? Clear and Present Danger, and then Patriot Games is the ones with
Patriot Games. Yeah.
I haven't seen those, or if I've seen them, they were such a long time ago. I don't remember them. So, unfortunately, those 2 are not on any streaming service right now. So I'm gonna have to wait. The only
I
one
feel like they're on cable a lot. You can catch them if you look.
the only one that's on the streaming service is Sum of All Fears, which I really enjoyed. I liked it. I thought Ben Affleck was pretty cool in it. It was different to see him in that type of role, besides it being a superhero type person. But yeah.
Does Morgan Freeman play the role of Greer in that?
No, he plays a different guy.
Okay.
Greer is not in this one.
He's not in that one.
He's
right?
not. No.
Because I think it's like before, like he gets to that point where he meets Greer and stuff like that, right?
It's really weird because it kind of like starts out from the beginning anyway, like where he meets, or he's already dating the nurse chick,
right?
Because it seems like that's each episode. It's because to be honest with you, I was thinking about this. The Hunt for Red October, he's already married to her and already has a child.
Yes.
So then, I'm not sure what Clear and Present Danger does or Patriot Games. But Some of All Fears, they just started dating. So I know this is not a geek related TV show, but it was.
I mean, it kind of is. Yeah. I mean, I think it's encompassing of stuff geeks are into.
I'm kind of
action, real life superhero stuff.
There you go. I'm kind of now in a Jack Ryan mode right now, where I just want to see everything of Jack Ryan.
I don't blame you. I mean, I've seen Hunt for Red October so many times, mostly because I'm like a Sean Connery fanatic. Mm-hmm. Like I love Sean Connery. It's so funny in that movie where you have all these Russians and then they stop speaking Russian like after like 10 minutes into the movie, and then everybody has a British accent.
Yeah, well, I love the
I
love that transition. That's one of my most vivid memories. It was the transition from Russian to English, and it was so perfect. And it was just like,
I mean, it's hilarious. Sean Connery, you have Sam Neill, even Tim Curry is in that, and they all have like these crazy British accents, which is hilarious.
Great movie. I remember seeing that. I saw Hunt for Red October the night before I left for boot camp.
Wow.
So it was pretty cool to catch that right before I went to boot camp, Navy boot camp. So that's what I'm That's what I'm watching. Not much on the not much else.
I think I already said for watching. I finished up Arrow. So I finished up Arrow and Flash now. I'm trying to catch up on everything else. I don't think it's going to happen before the new shows launch, but I feel like those were kind of the important two to make sure I finished before all the premieres this season. And I also watched season 2 of Titans.
Oh,
Did
that's
you watch
right.
that one as
yes,
well?
You know what? I am caught up to that. I apologize. I am caught up.
It was pretty good. I liked the introduction of Rose, who we find out is Slade Wilson's daughter.
Yes.
It was a pretty good episode. It wasn't anything too crazy going on. A pretty awesome fight scene that she had, and kind of like reintroducing everyone. I'm still kind of like, chomping at the bit to see this new Superboy character. I'm hoping next episode we get to see him. But it was a pretty good episode. I mean, honestly, I have to say without a doubt, I really like Swamp Thing, but I think Titans is their best show.
Absolutely. I
still can't
stomach. No, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just still can't stomach the whole Bruce Wayne dude. I mean, it's just he bothers me. I love him as a character.
I'll be honest with you. I don't think we're going to see him again after this.
You don't think so?
I looked because when they like released the IMDb stuff, he was only on there for 2 episodes, and I think he's done now.
Okay. I'm okay with that.
It's cool. I get it too. It just seems weird. It doesn't fit to me either.
Yeah. I
would have loved if he was like Alfred.
Yeah, absolutely. That fits. That fits.
He would have been like a cool Alfred, but I agree. He's on the older side.
I did see a photo today on Facebook of the Nightwing costume. So that was.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, that was released today. Apparently, somebody got a hold of it. It looks pretty bad. Kick butt.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go, BA. So yeah, looking forward to the whole Nightwing. I'm really excited to see that.
Yeah, I know Bojo. That's one of his like favorite characters. So I'm sure he's well, I don't think he's watched any of it yet, but I'm sure he'll be excited to see that character done well.
Nice. New episode drops tomorrow.
Yes, it does.
Nice.
Or 3 days ago.
3 days ago.
Yeah, so we've only watched season 2 so far because this is Thursday, September 19th. And well, next episode we'll let you know hopefully about episode 3.
And if Superman
but I have been reading a ton. I didn't start Planet Hulk yet. I do intend to do that very soon though. One of the things I read actually before the end of this past week, I finished the last part of the Spider-Man life story. So part 6, it's called the 10s. So like I guess like the 2010s into like the 19. So it's actually the date is 2019. and he's like 72 years old, and he's embarking on his pretty much final journey. And I mean, I guess he doesn't expect not to come back, but I mean, he basically sacrifices himself in the end, the Peter Parker character. It was really good. I mean, if you're a Spider-Man fan, I'm telling you, you have to read the life stories. It's, they go through the decades, and they're not exactly what happened in the comic books, but they're pretty cool, like flashes through like, the 60s through today. And, if you're not, I mean, they're really cool, like, tidbits on, what Spider-Man's done in the last like 60, 70 years. So Spider-Man life story, 1 through 6. It was written I think all were written by Chip Zdarsky, art by Mark Bagley. I think some other people who did the art as well. I think Zdarsky might have done some of the covers too. I know he did the one to Life Story 6. So definitely check it out if you haven't read them already. Probably the best Spider-Man story I've read in a while, although I am behind on current stuff. And then I'm not going to lie, most of my reading has been Marvel through Marvel Unlimited. Hey, if Marvel Unlimited, if you want to sponsor us, we'll keep our options open. Send us a message.
I just renewed my my subscription.
Yeah, so did I. I think we like signed up around the same time, me and you. So yes, I've read Cable #7 from I think 94. I don't remember what it was about. I'm not gonna lie. And then I've also read X-Men 29, also from February 94. Interesting story. That was kind of a little interaction between, you get a Psylocke and an Archangel story. It was, I forgot who the villain was in that. I have to go back and look at it, but it was pretty cool. What I am reading, I'm trying to catch up on the current stuff. I'm not reading a lot of the current stuff from the stuff I buy, but I am trying to catch up on the Unlimited app. So the ones that I've been trying to catch up most recently are the Venom Stegman stories and the Immortal Hulk, which have been fantastic. I think Al Ewing has been doing the writing on Immortal Hulk. I'm not sure if he's still on it, but he was at the time. And Donnie Coates has been writing the Venom story. They're just really good. I mean, Immortal Hulk especially has been fantastic. I'm up to issue 8, and it gets better and better every issue. Jim, after you're done with Planet Hulk, I would seriously recommend starting Immortal Hulk.
All right.
Venom has been interesting too. This whole Venom symbiote god has been interesting. I'm still behind on Spider-Geddon, which happened basically in November of 2018. I just read part 3 of that. It's okay. It's the Inheritors again. I don't know. I mean, you don't probably know about it, but people who have, been reading the current stuff and who are Spider-Man fans, I'm getting a little fatigued with these Inheritors characters. I think we need to kind of move on to another big bad, personally. Also reading X-Force #31. This was actually really good. It was so there's a Teresa, I want to say Cassaday. So she's the daughter of Banshee, Sean Cassaday. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And it's an interesting story. Apparently Black Tom Cassaday, who's like Banshee's cousin, he basically raised her and like kind of lied to Banshee that she didn't have a daughter. So it was kind of like one of those almost like a redemption type story. It was actually, X-Force is from the 90s stuff, other than like the regular Uncanny X-Men title, has probably been one of the better ones. I'm really enjoying that. And like I said, I read Spider-Man, Spider-Geddon 3, which has been okay. Uncanny X-Men is 309. It kind of goes into more of Professor X's like background story. I think the next issue is the marriage of Jean Grey and Scott Summers, and for some reason like Professor X like is finding it hard to be happy for them, even though he wants to be happy for them. And it goes into this like whole emotional like relationship thing that he had. It was interesting. It wasn't a story that I had heard before, but and then Gambit, the Gambit miniseries. I'm up to issue 3 of that. February 1st, 1994. That's been really good, actually. That's another one of my favorite things that I've been reading. Highly recommend reading through that. So I've been reading everything X-Men related from the beginning, like the early stuff before the new team joined. I kind of flipped through a lot of that stuff, but I've read everything since Gambit's joined, and this is kind of the first time you're really getting to see more about Gambit's origin story and his background, which he's a pretty cool character. I've always kind of had him as one of my favorites, and I know Mr. Jeff B, who's been on our show, he's a favorite of his as well. So Jeff, if you haven't read that one, recommend checking it out as well. And I think that's it. It was a lot.
Are you sure that's it? That's a lot.
I actually kept some decent notes on what I read this time around.
My God.
For the comic book fans out there of a comic book podcast.
You read a lot.
Yeah. Well, I was on vacation, so I had some time to read when my daughter wasn't climbing on me like a tree.
Nice.
Do we want to go into some announcements?
Sure. The only one I would probably talk about is New York Comic Con. So we're going to be at New York Comic Con, walking the floor, checking out booths and artists, and maybe doing a couple quick interviews, hopefully. If you guys find us, usually we're wearing our black collared shirts that have Long Island Comic Guys logo on the top left corner. If you guys find us, say come find us, and we'll give you a Long Island Comic Guys sticker.
Yeah, very cool sticker. Vinyl stickers, right?
Vinyl stickers. So find us, and we'll hook you up.
Limited to 25, guys.
Yep,
so get there soon. We'll definitely be there Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Sunday is questionable. Yep. We'll post out, pictures of the stickers and, what we'll be wearing, kind of maybe a picture of all of us.
There you go.
Wearing the polos. So
this helps us meet our fans, if we have fans. I mean, we'd like to know if we have fans.
Out there. We do want to interact. I mean, the one show that we did, the Suffolk County Comic and Art Expo, it was cool to have people come up to us like, oh yeah, granted there was a handful, maybe 10 to 15 people. Yeah, I've actually listened to your show before. That's actually pretty awesome. It tells us that what we're doing is actually appreciated by other people, at least. We enjoy doing it, but we enjoy that other people are kind of enjoying listening to us talk about our passion. So any continued support is greatly appreciated.
There you go.
And same as usual. So on my end, I think we're gearing up towards book club on the 27th. We hope as many people can join as possible. Again, it's the Don't Feed the Geeks book club. It's available on Twitch, Facebook Live, and YouTube. If you can't watch it at 8 to 8:30, I think it'll probably be 8:30. I think that's the time. Last time. We'll announce again details on that on social media as well. Check it out. We're the first one was super fun. We did Long Halloween. If you haven't watched that yet, still available on our YouTube page. Subscribe, follow us, and give it a view.
And then what's even funnier about that was 2 weeks later they announced that they're doing a Long Halloween cartoon or animation, right? Or
yes,
movie.
And what I'm hearing is the new Batman movie is going to be heavily inspired by the Long Halloween, which is also really cool.
We're going to take credit for that. That was our deal.
We are. We're going to tell everyone, they did that because of our book club.
That's right.
All right, guys. So I think that's it. Continue to follow us on social media, interact with us. We know that our stuff hasn't been easy to find because of all this new social media algorithms or whatever it is. So, try to, turn your notifications on for us so you can see where we're posting. We try to post good stuff on, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter now. We're kind of making sure we're active on all of those. So, that would be great if you followed and interacted. And as usual, until next time, remember...
Don't be the geeks!